There's a fish, I just saw one. There he is. Oh, come on, hit it. Oh, he's not gonna get it, is he? There you go, got him. Yeah, nice. That was cool watching him take that. Sweet. You can see those shadows that when they're moving on there really well. Ooh, nice fish. Chubby rainbow. Nice. Check that out. Man, it was cool watching him real time swipe at that jig. That was awesome. Man, that's a pretty rainbow. Alright, let's get this guy back in the water. See ya. Nice. Okay, so let me take a second to explain what you're looking at here with this Panoptix screen. So, this is the bottom here at 8 feet. And you can see I'm only 8 feet deep, but I can actually see out well over 5 foot on each side of the transducer, and I have directionality. So I'm going to go ahead and drop my jig down. There's my jig falling. And what's cool about the Panoptix is you can have these little tracer trails that leave behind where your jig was, so you can actually see fish move in and out of the screen momentarily. They leave that trail. And this is just a tiny little tungsten jig, and it's showing up extremely well on this finder. Now, sometimes when I give it a lot of motion, it'll disappear a little bit, and that might just be because I don't have the transducer pointed in the optimum direction, but I have directionality. So this is up towards the shore, up to my left. You can see it gets shallower, and then to the right it goes away, the bottom goes deeper, and there's actually a little bit of vegetation here reflecting. So I can actually see, I know from what direction the fish are moving in, and I can see in a pretty wide area. This little bit of signal here is actually some vegetation that was kicked up when I caught that last fish, and I pulled it up with that fish, and it's just kind of hanging out right there underneath the ice. But it's really amazing at how wide of a view I have. Now this is the down view, so this just means I'm looking straight. I have the transducer, the Panoptix transducer, shooting straight down, and the cone on these is extremely wide. So a traditional fish finder cone transducer like this is only going to be, 20 to 60 degrees if it's a really wide angle one, which isn't going to give you that big a view, whereas this is 120 degrees. So I have this monstrous view of the bottom, and now it's not a perfect cone, it's actually more kind of a cylindrical teardrop shape, but I have an amazing ability to see out for a long way on either side. Okay, so it's been a little while since I've had any fish come in and actually take a look at my jig, so instead of picking up and just moving and just drilling a random hole, I'm actually going to use the live view on the Panoptix forward to scout out and see if I can spot any fish swimming up to 100 feet in any direction around me. So I'll show you how I do that. So I'll take this out of the water, and then I can rotate this. Now it's shooting out, so it makes a noise when it does that. So now it's shooting out. I'll have it angled downward a little bit so that I can see down slope. I'm going to put this back in the water now. Okay, now you can see on the graph, you can see quite a different view. And what I'm actually doing is I'm actually looking, because I have it pointed this way, it's actually pointed up towards the shore about 50 feet behind me. So you can see how where I'm at now, it's deeper, it comes up shallow and gets a little deeper and then comes up to the bank at 50 feet. So what I should be able to do is just rotate this around, see if I can spot any fish. This is looking towards the bank still. This is looking right at the bank, so it's okay. And I can back out too a little bit. I can actually see out to 100 feet, although the signal gets quite a bit weaker when you go further away, but you can see 90 feet away is the bank. And I'm still just rotating this out. Now that's looking straight down the lake, so the signal just kind of disintegrates or degrades as it gets out there closer to 100 feet. Here you can see the bottom sweeping away from me. There you go, it's automatically adjusting. Not seeing any fish yet. Oh, there's a fish right there. See it swimming? It's about 50 feet out towards the middle of the lake. Not sure. Yep, there's that fish right there. He's swimming towards me here. He's actually coming right this way. Let's see if I can entice him to come hit my jig. He's coming. He's coming at me. He's coming straight for me. Well, it's been kind of a slow day today. I've only caught 2 rainbows, although both fish were really nice size and in good shape. But it was a good opportunity to get the Garmin Panoptix Ice Bundle out on the ice for the first time this winter. And I kind of wanted to give you my first impressions of it. I'll do a more in-depth review as I get more time out on the ice with this fish finder. So let's just start with the things that I don't like about the unit. First of all, putting it together was a bit of a hassle. The instructions aren't that great. Because I have a ton of experience with fish finders and different brands of fish finders, I was able to successfully put it together without too much headache. But if you're not super familiar with fish finders and did a lot of research on the Panoptix, you would probably have a little bit of a hard time just because they don't really have a lot of pictures that show you how to put all the different cords and everything together. So that is something I think that Garmin needs to work on. Additionally, it is a rather large unit, and you can see how big and heavy this is. Plus, you have to have the transducer mount that rotates. That's also quite large, so it takes up a lot more space than a traditional flasher or ice fish finder unit. So those are 2 major knocks. Another one is just the weight, and that's because they use a very large 12 volt, 12 amp hour sealed lead acid battery. Now, this is a $2,000 plus fish finder unit. I don't know why they just didn't go ahead and commit to a high quality lithium battery. You're going to get better battery life, and it would substantially reduce the weight of this overall unit. So those are my major knocks. A minor knock I'm going to say is that the signal isn't quite as clear. You'll see that you get sometimes some false echoes out here on the edge at various times. They're very difficult to mistake for a fish, but makes it a little bit more cluttered. The bottom isn't as hard looking as it is on a traditional flasher or traditional sonar. But that's about all the negatives I have to say. I have a lot more positive things to say about it. Number one is that even though today this unit didn't necessarily help me find fish, it did help me save time in that I could drill a single hole, fish for a while. If I didn't see anything, I could look around for 100 feet around me. And I just wasn't seeing a lot of fish, which gave me the impression that there just wasn't a lot of fish in this lake today. I would just pick up a single fish here and there, sort of wandering around. So rather than just moving around and drilling lots of holes and wasting my time, I just stayed put because I was given the impression that there's just a low density of fish here, and it was just a matter of time for one to pass by and then I could catch them. So in the same way, I do anticipate that this Panoptix will allow me to just drill holes and locate fish very efficiently. It also saves time and lets you know that there's really not a lot of fish around, and you can just focus on the areas that you're fishing. Another thing that I really did like about it is just having that separation. You know, when you have a traditional sonar, all of the data is compressed down to that single flat 2-dimensional. This gives you a much better idea of what's going on to the left and right of you. Or depending on where you're at, you can actually rotate this and look in different directions. But it's really nice to be able to see separation of vegetation and things like that, rather than having it all compressed on top. For instance, if there had been a big weed sticking up on one side of this, it may have made it difficult to see my jig, but I can actually fish adjacent to a weedy structure, and I can still pull out the individual signal of fish around that weed and also my jig. Additionally, it has pretty good resolution. I was surprised. One of my major concerns was that, you know, I fish with really small tungsten jigs, oftentimes in depths of 30 feet or greater. And while the return on the signal on a small 5mm jig wasn't great at 30 feet, it was still good enough for me. It's definitely not as good as you would get on traditional sonar, but it was good enough, and I can also see out a lot further, and that's because the width of the cone on the Panoptix is just so much wider. It's 120 degrees. There's no traditional sonar transducer for fish finders that are going to do that. This is going to give you 60 degrees max, so it's just amazing how much width of view that you're actually getting with the Panoptix. So another thing that I really liked about this was that just the auto settings were actually really good. They make it very easy to just plug and play. You know, on my Hummingbird and my Lowrance, I end up tinkering around with the settings a lot, and I did a lot today with the Garmin Panoptix, but I actually found that the auto settings worked best in terms of giving me the clearest view of fish and of my lure at different depths. So that's actually really nice because it just makes it really simple. It had no problem finding the bottom. Even as I rotated around, it would find the bottom and lock in on it for me really well. Additionally, I tried just the traditional sonar on here. It's absolutely great. Very clear image, and just as good as anything that I'm using with other fish finders. So it's nice to have that flexibility to be able to go to Panoptix or go with traditional sonar if you need to. Alright, so I'll be taking this thing out on the ice over the next few months and putting it through a variety of tests, but stay tuned if you want to see more. And if you have any questions about this unit, just let me know. I'll put links to the Panoptix, Garmin Panoptix Ice Bundle below, and if you have any questions, just let me know. Otherwise, I'll see you out on the ice next time. Be safe, have fun, catch lots of fish. See you guys.